Batman is a character who is more often than not tasked with outsmarting and outmaneuvering characters that no one else could. After all, Bruce Wayne's costume counterpart has taken down pretty much every major villain in DC's roster at this point, and those he hasn't taken out generally are only undefeated because they haven't properly taken each other on. But mercifully, many of the Bat's writers and artists over the years are aware that the beauty of Batman is that he's not perfect. While the Dark Knight has one-upped enough supervillains to fill a dictionary, he's also had his fair share of bad scrapes, where he's been outmatched, outsmarted, and generally outpantsed by his opponents. Look, I get it. It's always fun to see Batman save the day, but it's maybe even more fun to see him struggle every now and then, as it's the only thing keeping him from feeling like a totally invincible character. So, in the spirit of looking at the Dark Knight and going, yuck, I'm Ewan, you're watching What Culture Comics, and here are 10 villains who outsmarted Batman. Number 10, The Riddler, Batman Volume 3, number 32. At the closing of the beloved and despised War of Jokes and Riddles storyline, the Riddler manages to outsmart Batman in a very, very unusual way. After telling Batman that all the terrible things he's done have been more to rile the Joker than to counter the Dark Knight, Edward also tells the hero that he could kill everyone he's ever loved easily. In a final, very inadvisable move, Nigma decides to tell the Bat that the only reason he hasn't murdered his family yet is because he keeps Batman around as entertainment, and so he doesn't want to break him. Naturally, all this makes the Dark Knight more than a little bit angry. So angry, in fact, that he goes to kill the Riddler with a well-placed knife to the face, which is only stopped by the surprising assistance of none other than the Clown Prince of Crime, Joker. While the Joker technically gets to outsmart the Dark Knight because he's the one who stops him breaking his own rules and killing, the Riddler is the one who should get the credit for this Bat breakdown. After all, he is the one who manages to push Batman's buttons so expertly that the hero legitimately gives up all his moral codes in order to get the temporary relief of stabbing the villain clean in the face. Number 9. Onomatopoeia, the Widening GYRE. While Batman is perhaps not at his wisest in the Widening GYRE, as this is the comic where he tells a man he's just met that he once pissed himself while fighting crime, seriously, this doesn't change the fact that he's still completely outsmarted by Onomatopoeia in the events of the comic. A serial killer who targets superheroes without powers, Onomatopoeia naturally places his sights on murdering the Dark Knight. Realizing that there was no way he could take him on in an open fight, the villain goes a sneakier route to defeating Batman, disguising himself as another vigilante called Baphomet. As Baphomet, Onomatopoeia gains the hero's trust by working with him to take down the likes of Etrigan and the Black Spider. Look, Etrigan was going through a rough time here, okay? After reaching the stage where the Dark Knight's concerns about him had been put to rest, the villain finally gets to work, coldly killing Wayne's partner, Silver St. Cloud, to show that he means business. Number 8. Lex Luthor joins the Justice League. Justice League Volume 2, number 30. There is literally no character in the world who can match how smug Lex Luthor is when he manages to join the Justice League. While this initially appears to be because he legitimately wants to be good, it later becomes clear that Luthor, surprise surprise, had pulled the wool over the Justice League's eyes, and is still pretty damn evil. This is especially embarrassing for the Dark Knight, because he was the one to convince his fellow members that it was worth having the questionable Baldy on the team. As such, the egg is well and truly placed on Batman's furious face when Lex defects, as he does so with a considerable amount of League secrets. Maybe Batman's trust issues are for the best, when things like this appear to happen so damn often. Number 7. The Joker, the Killing Joke. The Killing Joke is a tale as old as time, or at least 1988, and perhaps one of the most infamous cases of the Joker getting to outsmart the Batman in comics history. While neither Batman or Jim Gordon break psychologically as the Joker intended them to, the Clown Prince of Crime gets another, more interesting sort of victory. He gets the Dark Knight to understand his mindset. At the end of the comic, when the pair have their final confrontation, the Jester manages to tell a joke that even the historically stoic Bat finds funny, leading to the iconic page of the two arch-enemies laughing hysterically together. Analysis of this scene usually revolves around questioning whether Batman kills the Joker at the end of this comic, as is a popularly believed fan theory. But it's perhaps more important to look at what comes before, as it maybe means more that the Jester manages to finally accomplish one of his life goals by convincing the Dark Knight that their constant struggle against one another is actually pretty funny from a certain point of view. Number 6. Jason Todd, Under the Hood. Perhaps one of the most inadvertently impressive moments that involves someone outsmarting the Dark Knight comes in the infamous pages of Under the Hood. Within it, it's revealed that the titular Red Hood that Batman has been fighting against is none other than his former protege and adopted son, Jason Todd, and that Batman somehow couldn't recognize his fighting style of the boy he taught everything to. Todd has a slight advantage in this regard, to be fair, because he's off Batman's suspect list since he's supposed to be, crowbarred to death. Even with this said, it seems totally surreal that the Dark Knight wouldn't notice that this mysterious villain fought the exact same way as his darling boy, and had a lot of the same quips. But also, crucially, at this point, Jason manages to one-up Batman on a psychological level, because him turning rogue is a move that genuinely causes the Dark Knight to second-guess himself and his cause. After all, Todd's anger at knowing that he died and the Joker essentially got away unpunished is actually pretty fair. And so, as much as Batman can fight against him physically, he has to do so with the knowledge that he is directly responsible for the way that his adopted son is today. Todd's death was Batman's greatest failure. Make him come back as a vigilante who kills people, and that failure is exacerbated 10 times more. Number 5. Prometheus, JLA number 17 and JLA number 37. Prometheus, much like the myth he gets his name from, is a character who can teach you a solid lesson about learning boundaries. For the mythological figure, this boundary is taking fire to man. For his comic counterpart, the lesson is far more simple, as this Prometheus decides to fight Batman not just once, but twice. And by all means, he does outsmart Batman for the lion's share of his time on page, using the armor he programmed to teach him the fighting skills of countless accomplished combatants to swiftly take down the Dark Knight. It's an especially clever plan, as said programming device also taught him all the fighting capabilities of one crucial figure, that of Batman himself. Armed with Batman's fighting prowess and able to surprise him with his complete knowledge of his fighting style, it was almost set in stone that Prometheus would win against the Caped Crusader. Or win once, at least, because Prometheus decides outsmarting one of the smartest superheroes on the planet a mere once isn't enough for him. Instead, he decides to try and fight Batman again, despite the fact that he now knows how the villain is beating him. While Prometheus naturally loses, it's hard to forget that, had he known when to stop, he would have had a permanent one-up on Gotham's protector. Number 4. Bane. Various, because he does it all the damn time. Bane really does not get enough credit when it comes to just how many times he's outmaneuvered the Dark Knight. Obviously, the most famous of these is Nightfall, where the villain organized basically Batman's entire rogues gallery against him. After weakening Batman by forcing him to fight all these baddies, Bane goes in for the kill, leading to the iconic moment where he breaks the Dark Knight's spine like a twig. But this isn't the Luchador's only moment of brilliance against Gotham's Guardian. The newest storyline involving Bane, fittingly called City of Bane, involves the villain literally taking over Gotham and replacing every government official within it with a supervillain, which is also a pretty big victory over the Bat. Number 3. Dr. Hurt, Batman R.I.P. For all intents and purposes, Dr. Hurt managed something that few other villains can claim. He killed the Batman. Or at least he killed Bruce Wayne's memories of an ability to be Batman, as he and his henchmen drug the vigilante to the point he loses his memories completely, which leaves him roaming around Gotham lost and confused as the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh. And if the Dark Knight hadn't gone to the ridiculous effort to program an alternate personality in himself that would come out when he was in extreme peril, they would have ended his superhero career then and there. This in mind, Hurt did outsmart the Bat, just temporarily, until one of the hero's many failsafes could come into effect. Even then, Hurt and his Black Glove still come close to taking the Dark Knight out once more, as they set one final trap in the form of Jezebel, a member who goes incognito to become Bruce's partner. However, this doesn't quite count as the glove outsmarting Batman, as he suspects Jez from the start, possibly because her name literally means untrustworthy. That's why he's called Dr. Hurt and not Dr. Big Brain. Number 2. Deacon Blackfire, Batman the Cult. One of the most interesting things about the Cult storyline is that it contains a villain who, by all means, shouldn't be any kind of threat to the Dark Knight. Deacon Blackfire has no superpowers, is only moderately strong, and doesn't even appear to have the wealth that the majority of other powerless villains rely on to carry out their twisted deeds. No, Blackfire has absolutely none of this, and yet he's exceedingly dangerous, simply because he's very good at convincing people to do as he says. As such, when Batman encounters Deacon, you expect him to maybe trounce him immediately. Instead, the Dark Knight is the one who gets decidedly dunked on, as waves and waves of people who Blackfire has recruited decide to join the fray. After this, the villain basically manages to totally break Batman through a mix of hallucinogenic drugs and a persuasive speech, with the hero briefly joining his roaming gangs until he manages to find some undrugged food and clear his head. If it weren't for that convenient snack though, that might have been the end of Batman as we know him. And number 1, The Court of Owls, Batman Volume 2, Number 3. While the Court of Owls have been taken down massively by the big bad Bat anytime he happens upon them, they have hugely outsmarted him in one very major way. He literally didn't know they existed until years into his superhero career. Both Batman and the Court of Owls reside in Gotham, and the court had been operating since long before Bruce was a child, meaning that they've operated right underneath his nose the whole time he's been a vigilante. Given that, Batman is supposed to be the world's greatest detective, the fact that an entire organization managed to hide from him so well that he didn't even have an inkling they existed is pretty damn embarrassing. And that was our list on villains who outsmarted Batman. Prove you're the biggest brain of all and leave a comment for no reason down in the comments below. And please don't forget to like the video and hit the notification bell so you never miss another vid going forward. As always, I've been Ewan, keep on reading comics, and I'll see you next time. Bye!